The whole world is watching the latest polls closely as the defining moment for America and beyond approaches. This, among others, is what we will be discussing in our today's show. Hello, my name's Kalczyńska, and welcome to Face to Face. And joining me today to discuss the U.S. possible scenarios, as well as decisions Moldovans made this weekend, is Michał Broniatowski, Editor-in-Chief in TVP World. Michał, welcome.
Well, before I take your greetings, I'd like to introduce to our viewers Anna Kalczyńska, a newcomer to TVP World, but she's very, very well known in Poland, a big star of various news channels in this country. So we are really very, very glad and proud that we have you here.
Michał, the honor is mine and the pleasure to join your team. Thank you very much. And so, let's go to the U.S. elections, if I may. Polls remained closest they ever been.
Well, I would even say that we have what some people describe already as a toss-up election. So, because I don't want to take any sides, I will try what the coin will say. This is on the heads is Mrs. Harris. Mm-hmm. Here on the tails is Mr. Trump, and let's see what the fate says.
Oh no! Do we even want to check on this?
No. I think if even fate doesn't want to take any sides, so I think we'll give it a miss and leave our viewers in suspense.
All right. So with 1 day left in this 2024 campaign, the polls show one of the closest presidential elections in the history of American politics. Some newspapers decline to endorse. Some experts decline to indicate who's possible winner. How about your take?
My take is that I am not taking any side, as well as the others, because it is too close. Some even say it is a toss-up election. Let's see what happens. In June, when Kamala Harris took over from Joe Biden, she started very, very quickly to gain over Mr. Trump, and already in August she was both nationally ahead, several points ahead of former president, and she also was getting advantage in the so-called 7 swing states, in which the difference is statistically very difficult to predict, really. This was continuing until mid-October, and then suddenly Trump started to regain. Mm-hmm. There are already some polls which are showing that the majority of swing states will be taken by Trump. Mm-hmm. However, over this past weekend, we got several indications that may as well be Mrs. Harris. First of all, everybody is recalling the prediction of Professor Alan Lichtman. This is the guy who, for the last 40 years, was predicting outcomes of American elections. And in 10 cases, he predicted well 9 victories. So everybody is listening to him, and he says it'll be Vice President Kamala Harris.
So Vice President Kamala Harris would be underestimated in the polls, right?
Yes.
Why so?
There are very many explanations to it. I think they are risky because both in 2016 and 2020, where first Trump won and then he was defeated, in both cases he was heavily underestimated. And I see no reason why not this time. If there is this prediction of Professor Lichtman and several others, polling institutions which are saying it's leaning towards Mrs. Harris, I think that if we think that Mrs. Harris is underestimated, it may well be that it is voters who are taking very, very late decision. And these voters are apparently, in most cases, white women in suburbs of major cities, like, for example, suburbs of Philadelphia,
Exactly.
in the state of Pennsylvania, which is the most important of those 7 swing states.
I remember the words of Donald Trump campaign manager, do you remember, in 2016, Kellyanne Conway said that actually people voted the way they have always voted, on things that affect them, not on things that offend them. So that would apply to this election as well, in your view?
Definitely, because Mr. Trump has spent last few months offending lots of his prospective voters. First of all, offending women, him or his surrogates, offending, for example, this famous case of Puerto Rico being an island of garbage. Not his words, but he never distanced himself from that. And it's several 100,000 voters in swing states, the Puerto Ricans. So we will see what happens. But there are other unexpected entries from different polls. One is from a British so-called mega poll. I will read from my notes. The company is called Focal Data, which has a history, for example, of predicting a Brexit result and some other unexpected results in elections. So what they did is, over the last months, they made a poll asking key question. The 31,000 people, their take is that nationally, it is Kamala Harris, and also she wins, according to them, in four states out of 7, which is enough to win, to take the election. Another one is also very important. Is New York Times is also seeing 4 swing states for Kamala Harris. But the most unexpected thing happened in the heavily red state, which is Republican-leaning state of Iowa, where the local newspaper, Des Moines Register, who is usually on the eve of the elections, is publishing its own poll. And for the first time in many, many months, they gave 47 to 44 in favor of Mrs. Harris, which 1 month ago was opposite. So let's see.
Let's see. I guess we are trying to predict the unpredictable, Michał. But let's turn to the possible outcome and its important significance for our region. And let me quote Donald Tusk, Polish Prime Minister, who wrote recently, "Harris or Trump, some claim that the future of Europe depends on American elections, while it depends first and foremost on us. On condition Europe finally grows up and believes in its own strength. Whatever the outcome, the era of geopolitical outsourcing is over." So what should we understand under this quote, geopolitical outsourcing? Does that mean that NATO is no longer the first option that we should rely on?
No. NATO is and will remain the best option and the first option. But the era of geopolitical outsourcing, as it is called by Mr. Tusk, is indeed over. Because no matter who becomes a new president, whether it is Mr. Trump, who openly is saying that he will think it all over, but also if it is Mrs. Harris, we cannot avoid the situation in which she may be extending her hand to help Ukraine, but all the time with her head turning back towards China, the Pacific region, where Americans, this region, Americans perceive as their main threat, and probably rightly so. Time when Europe could think that we can sleep and do nothing because Americans will be protecting us are over, and it'll be especially underlined by tomorrow's election.
However, some say that the administration of Joe Biden didn't do enough for Ukraine and that they stopped at several moments that were key moments in this war with Russia. So what would you think, be it Kamala Harris, do you think that this administration will take a sharper edge on Ukraine or not?
Well, judging from what she was saying in the campaign, her position towards Ukraine and helping Ukraine in the war against Russia, it's clearer than Biden. I think she will, or her team, will be not only more outspoken, but also ready to take bolder decisions. Mm-hmm. Biden is a kid of Cold War, and he learned that the main threat of the world is Russia. Russia is no longer the threat of the world, and the 2.5 years of the war have proven that, because he's losing on each of his main goals he wanted to achieve in this war. And he was talking about his red lines, but he never acted on the West and Ukraine crossing these red lines.
Michał, coming back to this election, to hours that actually separate us from the big vote, let's discuss a possible plausible draw scenario. Is that an option in your mind? And what can it entail? I mean, how long can it last? How long can this counting last? And how it will end?
Big networks will be early to announce the winner, because thanks to exit polls and so on, usually during Wednesday we will hear from people like Associated Press or CNN that their call is this or that. But of course, counting will take a longer time, especially in Pennsylvania, which we have already said that it is one of the decisive places. 19 electors come from Pennsylvania. The case of Pennsylvania is difficult because all the votes which were cast before the election day can only be counted on the election day. So it takes time.
Clearly, we are witnessing one of the most interesting elections in the United States so far. And now let's turn to Moldova, because with nearly 98% of the vote counted in the second round of the elections, presidential elections this Sunday, Maia Sandu comes with 54% of the vote, ahead of Alexander Stoyanolo, a Kremlin-friendly political newcomer. Do you think, Michał, this is a significant figure to secure, for instance, the future for Moldova in next year election?
Well, I think Americans would wish to have such a small advantage. 54% for one candidate makes a difference of 8 points. And this is really huge. By any measures in Western Europe, in Poland, for example, and especially in the United States. So I think it's a good sign for the Moldovan pro-European aspirations. However, we cannot forget about the fact that this victory is mostly thanks to Moldovan exiles, people who live abroad and were allowed to vote. Because without them, probably the final result would be almost a tie. So, it's good to have a clear victory, especially that in the vote over in the referendum over European Union membership, there was just less than 1%, exactly. Over 50. So I think Mrs. Sandu has a very, very strong mandate.
That is true. And speaking about this interior vote, in Moldova, the twist was really spectacular over several hours, right? Stoyanolo won in Moldova, but thanks to the votes from abroad, Maia Sandu secured her victory. And she said, Moldova, you have won. Moldova, you are victorious. These were her first words. However, we cannot neglect the Russian impact and the interference in these elections.
We definitely don't neglect it. It was visible.
$40 million, right? A vote buying scheme of attempt to influence these elections.
They also say that some sources say that Russians spent on the elections, the Kremlin spent on these elections more money than all the participating parties taken together. So it shows the influence, but it's not only money that comes from Russia. Russia, unluckily, still has a strong political power, soft power, which it lost a huge chunk after the invasion of Ukraine 2.5 years ago. As we can see, large part of Moldovans, of Georgians, next year probably Czech people are still treating Russia and Moscow as a serious partner and friendly partner.
Let me quote Andrzej Duda, the president, who said, congratulations to Maia Sandu on your re-election as the president of the Republic of Moldova. Your victory is a clear sign that Moldova's place is in a democratic and united Europe. So my question to you, Michał, would be, how about those aspirations and the response from EU, especially with Polish presidency in view?
Poland will play a very important role in accommodating Moldova's entry into European Union. Poland is taking over, as you said, the presidency of the Council of the European Union on January 1st. And one of the main goals of the Polish presidency will be developing the enlargement of the European Union, mainly by Ukraine and Moldova. And Georgia is already, after the election, has been removed from this race. I think the influence of Poland, talking about this presidency, will be quite big. If you remember what Mr. Tusk did in October when he went to Brussels and in 2 or 3 hours convinced the rest of the remaining 26 leaders to his idea of lifting asylum rights to people who are illegally entering the territory of Schengen. And so, if he has such a big influence in the EU, which he has already proven, we can expect that the influence of Warsaw during this presidency will be quite big.
Thank you very much, Michał, for your expertise. And we are watching the world up close. Thank you very much for watching Face to Face, and see you soon.